Upgrades.
Hey, what's going on out there, ladies and gentlemen? I am back here again for another movie review. We are going to be talking about Vacation Friends 2. Believe it or not, the follow-up from Vacation Friends that was initially released out on Hulu, it brings back Marcus and crew. So John Cena reprises his role of Ron. Meredith plays her role of Kaya yet again. Yvonne comes back as Emily, and of course, Lil Rel Howery as Marcus. So this time around, it looks like somebody has a little bundle of joy, and it's not the couple that you thought it would be. Ironically, it's actually Ron and Kaya. So Kyla and Ron are now parents, and you would think, oh, okay, it's gonna make them dial it back a little bit, and they're gonna care about their kid. I kid you not, this entire movie, they literally leave this baby. They leave this baby with somebody else, and Carlos Santos is that someone else that is basically the baby carrier. Like he is watching the child the entire time of the movie. But I'm gonna go and break down to you guys what I think about this comedy. So, really, first, real quick, the way in the context that I actually got to see this, I wish I could show you the pictures, but I can't right now. I couldn't find them. I got to actually go and watch this outside. I actually got to watch it on the pool with my wife. We were able to screen it and check it out. I mean, the first one really didn't kind of impress her necessarily. And I thought the first one had some humor here or there that kind of worked. Sometimes it didn't. Sometimes it kind of felt like it was a bit much. And I was kind of like, is this deserving of a sequel? And I was really curious to see kind of how they would pivot with this one. But I'll get into that. I'll go into the details with it. The things I'll say that did work in this one, and I think that the cast themselves, like they seem to genuinely like each other. They seem to genuinely love riffing off of each other in these one-liners. Lil Rel, first off, he's a natural comedian, but then at the same exact time, John Cena is as well. And both the ladies, their reactions, their emotive reactions to everything that's happening in between, whether they're initiating it or they're reacting to something that's happened, has always been gold. As far as the first movie and in this one, it's no different. The thing that I think I liked about this one was that they went to a lot of different locations. They didn't just go and kind of stick to one pivoted location. And then I think even in the first one, the one other location they had, I think it felt like a really CGI cliff location. Whereas in this one, they kind of had them scuba diving. They kind of had them going into different settings, and also they add some action elements to it as well, some life threatening situations that do come up that I was really surprised about. And I mean, the other thing that I'll say is that you bring in a legend in Steve Buscemi. Steve Buscemi is a actual legend. So seeing him kind of riff off with John Cena was something that I was curious about to see if it would land or not. And I'll get into that in a second. But just having Steve Buscemi in this film is a plus. No matter what, they kind of use his character for, I think it is a plus. Now, the way in the context they use him is that Kyla's dad is Steve Buscemi's character. And he kind of is just getting out of prison. And, he kind of wants to do things his way. And Reese is kind of threatened by Ron. He's threatened by John Cena's character because Ron, in all intents and purposes, is almost the perfect soldier. And yet, like, everybody loves him. But of course, you got a dad and he loves his daughter, and then you got a protective husband that loves his wife. What do you get? You get shenanigans as well. So those are the kind of surrounding things I think that do work for this film. I'm a little torn with the humor. So the first one I think had a lot of like natural random humor. Even though sometimes it was cringy, it was kind of like, when when you see Lil Rel's reaction to everything or anything that Ron does or his wife, and they're caught off guard. Those natural reactions are what make that so definitely hilarious. Whereas in this one, it's kind of a retread. The only scenario is that Marcus is trying to compete. He's trying to work something out as far as with his job, and now he's having to deal with these crazy people yet again. It's like been there, done that. So it's a little bit harder to make us feel surprised with certain scenarios. I think what they tried to do is they added in new characters into this one, which I don't want to spoil necessarily who some of them are. But they added in new characters to give Marcus and other people groundwork to kind of get out of their shells to make humor a little bit more natural. I think it's weird in this one because some of the characters they introduce are very serious, life-threatening characters, and then others are just very jerkish and they're dealing with the existential crisis, or they're the boss, so to speak. And so it kind of doesn't help balance things because throughout the whole entire time you're still never forgetting this is a comedy, versus the first one, like everything's happened around them because of Ron and Kyla, versus now it just feels like the whole entire world is silly. And I think that makes it harder to laugh at certain things. That's not to say that they don't have comedic things in this one. There are some funny moments. I think part of it is really just off of the whims of Lil Rel and John Cena's natural comedic timing. But I think also the relationships, both relationships have that natural feel to them. So they pull off the comedies when they work. But when they don't, it's because of the way they're written, the way that the punchlines are set up, they don't functionally work at times. And at times it also feels like you're spinning the wheel that you've already spent. And so you're like, oh, okay, you introduce this other character. Do they latch on like the other characters do? To me personally, even though Steve Buscemi is an amazing treasure, I don't latch on to the character Reese. Like I see through him completely. And I've seen movies like what's a good one? Double Take, for instance. Orlando Jones and Eddie Griffin, right? And as a fish out of water situation, that you got this uncomfortable balance of trying to figure out what somebody's going to do, what they can't do. And it's amazing comedic timing. No matter what character's around, like it just naturally sparks. And part of that is off those two men, but also every other character that kind of comes in, it flows through the story itself. And I think that this one, it just didn't service Steve's character, didn't service any of the other characters at all to make me be like, oh wow, I'm really happy that the added these other characters. It's kind of like it's just more so scenario based. The other thing is, even though they put you in certain scenarios to add action and flair, like all these different action moments, all these different things, like it just comes off a little cringy. And so I think that they set those moments up to give us more of that surprise. And sometimes it just really just doesn't land, unfortunately. But I do think now that this is watchable. I think this is one that if you like the first one, I think you would be interested to see where these characters are going and where they're kind of progressing. But at the same time, it might not be necessary either. I think you can kind of take it or leave it. But I do think that at the very least, it's worth going to check out on Hulu. Like it's available right now, and I think that ultimately, like all the different actors are there to play. They're not phoning it in, so to speak. I think that they're all kind of dedicated to what their characters' progression are. I just don't think that the story lands. I think that the humor is not as good as the first one, and I think that because they try to add and interject certain scenarios, it kind of makes the movie displaced in a way. I'd rest this at a C to C minus. That's where I'm going to rest it at. But let me know what you guys think of it. You probably already seen it already. Let me know what you think. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit the bell button. I'll talk to you guys a bit later. Peace, people.